One, two, three. This is Dr. S. the Legend. I'm going to talk today about the cure for TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. As far as I know, nobody else has actually came up with a cure. So, let me give you a little background. So recently I spoke to a former colleague who taught political science at a major university. I also taught in that department for about 12 years. So, the first thing out of his mouth was not "how are you" and "what are you doing," was that Trump is a threat to democracy. He's like Hitler. Now, as an attorney, I'm also an attorney, I always ask follow-up questions. So I asked him to name 5 things how Trump is a threat to democracy and how he is like Hitler. He could only come up with one thing: that Trump was locking up immigrants and putting them in unhealthy detention centers. And I said, okay. That was my response. He couldn't come up with anything else. Then I gave him some facts. There's an old expression: never let the facts get in the way of your opinion. Or never let the facts get in the way of Trump Derangement Syndrome. President Obama locked up and deported over 5 million illegal aliens. And there was no Obama Derangement Syndrome. There were no protests or demonstrations. President Truman and President Eisenhower locked up and deported another 5 million illegal aliens. And there was no protests and no derangement syndromes. And then I mentioned to my colleague, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He sent over 100,000 Japanese American citizens, men, women, and children, to concentration-like camps during World War II. I'm not going to go into the whole reasoning because of it. There were no protests. President Roosevelt also suspended habeas corpus, which means that you can just lock up people for no reason, without any trials, without any lawyers, and this was done during World War II. And there was no President Roosevelt Derangement Syndrome. And again, no protests at the time. Now, later in history, people said, maybe he did the wrong thing. But when he did it, nobody said anything. Oh, and by the way, when President Roosevelt died, he was succeeded by President Truman, and he ordered the dropping of 2 atomic bombs on Japan. And there were no protests. And there was no Truman Derangement Syndrome. This was in August of 1945. So much for former presidents. Why is Donald Trump different? Let me get into the Hitler issue. Trump is like Hitler. Now, Hitler had 2 of his own private organizations. One was called the SA, in German Sturmabteilung, stormtroopers, and then succeeded by the SS, Schutzstaffel, headed by Heinrich Himmler. The SS ran the concentration camps in Germany. There were over 300 concentration camps. Probably a couple million people died in the concentration camps. The SS under Himmler also ran death camps in Poland. There were 6 of them. Treblinka, Sobibor, Auschwitz, Birkenau, the most famous. And they sent people to the gas chambers by the millions. This was on orders by Hitler. So Hitler was responsible ultimately for 50 million people being killed during WW2. Now how is it possible that Donald Trump is like Hitler? Hitler ended democracy in Germany in January 1933. He ended all elections. He banned all political parties and all opposition. And anyone who opposed him he put them in concentration camps. Now, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but he's not really a threat to democracy. And he's not like Hitler. No way. If you just present facts to people that have Trump Derangement Syndrome, you can just eliminate the whole situation. By the way, recently, European countries like Germany and the United Kingdom, if you go on social media and you say improper things, they will lock you up. They don't have the First Amendment. We have the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and it's almost an absolute. And everyone takes it for granted. And by the way, there's no such thing as hate speech. I mean, you can call it hate speech, but it's not a crime. You can say whatever you want to say. Now, I also asked the professor colleague if he knew anyone he deals with in his normal life that votes for or voted for Donald Trump. And he really couldn't come up with anyone other than some distant relatives. So the fact is, people live in bubbles. If you lie once, it's a lie. Talking about Trump Derangement Syndrome. He's like Hitler. He's a threat to democracy. If you lie 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. I come in contact with many people who have Trump Derangement Syndrome. And I can tell immediately, they just go right into it. There's no small talk. Right away, they mention Trump. So, here's the cure. Ask follow-up questions. If you want to, ask follow-up questions. Provide them with facts. Give them the facts. Don't let their opinion get in the way of the facts. Or you could change the subject. Or what I have found effective with people with Trump Derangement Syndrome is I start to yawn. And in a nice way I tell them, you know, you're kind of boring me. Don't become an audience. So those are my cures for Trump Derangement Syndrome. You should try it. Or just ignore these people. Or stay away from them. Anyway, this is Dr. S. the Legend. This was a short video. I want to give you my podcast, Conversations with Dr. S. the Legend. This is who I am. And you can reach me at drsthelegend@gmail.com. And by the way, as I do with all of my podcasts, I have these beautiful paintings here, Western paintings and rodeo paintings and cowboy paintings. These can all be viewed at pbensenior.com. So much for Trump Derangement Syndrome. This is Dr. S. the Legend, signing off.